This is a topic I really love talking about because having a strategic plan for your business, I think, gives you a competitive advantage and it also gives you a financial advantage. And I think the biggest obstacle we hear from people when we talk about doing an annual plan or strategic planning, because we're just talking about start with doing a 1 year plan. We're not saying you got to do a big 3 or 5 year plan. The difference you get in your business when you're intentional about where you want to be in a year, what things you want to be different in your business, it gives you an opportunity for you to set the direction and the course of what happens. And you don't just accept what comes in. Because Robin and I found, especially during the pandemic, when we had the plan we set was blown out of water, once you have a plan, it's easier to go in and then make changes and adjustments if you have unforeseen things that happen during the year. You're not feeling like you're a victim and at a loss. It's okay. We've got to make some tweaks, make some changes, but can we still meet some of our goals and hit our plan, maybe doing different revenue streams than we initially thought?
And I think for me, I know for you too, Susan, I think for both of us, gives me a total peace of mind that I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm, all those things crop up on you where you're just like, oh, I forgot we were going to do this in January or this in February. And I just know that having our strategic plan mapped out, and Susan and I take it one step further because once we have our planning document, then we go in and we create our own little list of tasks. So we know every month, okay, I need to be planning on this event that's going to happen in March. In February, I need to be doing A, B, C through. I have a list of those. So I feel like my brain can be released from having to remember those things. And for me, that's a huge peace of mind because I hate to be behind the power curve and I hate to be, a week before something and then I'm just now remembering it. So for me, it's a huge peace of mind factor of just getting organized and being able to understand where my work is supposed to be focused for that particular month or week or whatever. So I definitely think that's a huge benefit for that strategic planning.
Yeah,
So
and when you free your brain up, that's when you get creative ideas and solutions. And so you can leave room in your plan to add things or get creative and swap things out. I think the other thing that we find is we can be over aggressive in things we think we can get done in a year. And then when we start filling out that sheet that Robin talks about, where we're actually putting in the tasks month by month, it's like already March and I'm going, oh, Robin, March is looking scary. I don't know if we're going to be able to do all this stuff that we need to do in March. So it does help you look ahead and decide, okay, we're not going to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, what's the financial impact? Does that impact other things? It just, I don't know. To me, it provides that roadmap that where you're going and what's most important to focus on in your business, because you can have a lot of opportunities. We get calls from people all the time. Hey, this is an opportunity. Do you want to take advantage of it? We can now go back to our plan and say, okay, if we do this and it takes a lot of time, are we willing to give something else up of our plan? Is this going to be better for our business than what we already had there? So you can still make adjustments, but I think you have a benchmark to measure.
And I think starting out, so for those that have just joined us, we're talking about strategic planning for your business. And we are strong believers that every business should have a strategic plan. And we're just talking about a simple plan to help you get through next year. So you can take it into, a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, but we're just talking really about a 1-year plan for next year. And for Susan and I, the starting point for that really is what are your overall goals that you want to accomplish? Whether it's increase wages, increase revenue, you want to add a service, like maybe you want to add enrichment or you want to change some service that you have to make it better. Maybe it's that you want to buy certain types of equipment. Maybe you want to refresh your look of your facility. Like all of those are goals. I would just start by writing down all those goals you want to accomplish and don't rule anything out at this point. Because as Susan said, sometimes the planning itself you'll end up seeing that you have too much on your plate. So you'll rule it out that way. But for now, just what do you really want to accomplish next year? And doesn't have to be Doesn't have to be too specific, but it also can't be too vague. So if you want to buy equipment, what kind of equipment, how much, how many of things? If you want to add a service, then start mapping out what that service is and roughly when you want to start it. So just put some basic goals down like that. The other thing that I think is really important to include is any holidays. So for pet care businesses, you're going to be busy at holidays. I would put those on your calendar for now and map out if you want to do something special for that holiday. So a good example is Halloween is over, but if you are like a lot of facilities, you do special pictures or a Halloween costume contest or something like that. If you're like many businesses, you wanted to do that, but didn't get it done because you didn't think about it until 3 days before Halloween. So put that on your calendar now. And guess what? You can actually make all the planning for that happen way before Halloween. So when Halloween actually gets here next year, you're ready to go. So put that stuff on your calendar. The other thing that we would say to put on your calendar is vacations. When do you want to go out of town? What are your plans? Because and Susan and I have gotten better at this every year. I think now it's one of our main priorities is when do you want to take vacation as the business owner? Because most of the time we find that you're fitting yourself in when you can. And it's really at the last, you're the last person you think of about taking a vacation. We want to switch that to say you should be planning your vacations first. So if there's a certain time when, if you have a partner and you both have off on a certain time, or that person has off, so you want to take off time off too, put that on your calendar now. Put that on your document for planning. If you know you have kids and they have certain holiday periods, a lot of times they're going to coincide with your busy pet seasons. That doesn't mean you have to be there every single time one of those busy pet seasons happen. And if you plan it in advance, you can take time off. And but it helps to document all that stuff now. So put all of those special holiday events that you might want to attend. Conferences are another thing. I would put those on your calendar now so that as you're doing your strategic plan, those are blocks of time where you can already say, okay, I'm going to be gone during this time to attend the Dog Gurus conference, for instance,
Sure.
and which is going to be in April. And make sure your team knows so that you can start planning them to take over for you during that time frame. Same with vacation, same with whatever. So I think what other things, Susan, would you say that they should start putting down on paper to get their strategic planning started?
We know that for your business to have value and for you to get an increased wage too, I'm a big proponent that you should have a total revenue goal as well as a profit percentage goal. And really put down what you want those to be and to stretch yourself. For your company to have maximum value, people want to see like a 10% revenue growth every year. And you really need to be in a double digit profit. We say shoot for a minimum of 20% profit in your business. So the other thing is, if you're not making a six-figure salary from your business, I would be setting up how can you get an increase for you. I always look at the financial numbers first, but I think those are important to look at and to plan for. And then what we've done, Robin, this year is you have to then go in and say, okay, what are the actions that can make that happen? You don't want to leave it to chance. Do you need to raise rates? Do you need to grow your occupancy? And so then what is the marketing strategies you're going to use to grow occupancy if that's what you're going to need to have better revenue growth and profitability? Taking it that next step is what's going to be really important in your plan to make sure it's realistic. So we did this. We said, this is how much it looks like we're going to make this year. This is what we want to make next year. What's that difference? And how are we going to get there? And if you're offering different service streams, you could say a certain amount of it's going to come from lodging. Then how many more pet nights is that? And then what marketing are you going to do to get those additional pet nights? If you break it down, then you're going to know right away whether you're tracking there or not.
And I would say, I just was listening to a podcast the other day, and the person in there was talking about the inflation. So when you just were talking about, Susan, a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm going to make 10% next year, 10% more next year. You just like randomly put that as a goal. And for many people, they do price increases at the beginning of the year. And then it does work out that they get 10% more. For this particular coming year, 10% more means you might actually lose money. In
Mhm.
terms of, and the way that they put it in this podcast was they were saying, if you basically increased to 10%, but there's a 10% inflation, you really haven't done anything. In some cases, you actually are losing money. So I thought it was interesting the way they were talking about it. So you really have to look at that. We already know that staffing increases are pretty much throughout the pet industry happening. So
Right.
your salaries for your employees is most likely going up. So you want to at least look at your revenue projection based on not just a random percentage, but does that percentage you choose, does it help you to increase your wages that you're paying your staff? Does it help you also to increase your salary? Because you, as the owner, want to increase your salary as well. And does that still get you into a growth for your business? Because you want to see growth within your business, for a whole lot of reasons, not just to make money, but also just because of your business value for whenever you exit. And that might not be for years and years, but you still want to be planning on growth. But it happens to be that for right now, because inflation is running about 6%, a 10% increase isn't going to be that much of a growth for you. So you really have to stretch that a little bit more. And then, as Susan said, then you have to figure out, is price increase alone, if
Right.
you increased your prices and got the same amount of clients as you did this year, is that going to give you what you need to hit all your goals? And maybe it will, but maybe it won't. We would be looking at increasing revenue, but also increasing the amount somebody spends with you per pet, and maybe increase different services. Or if you're going to add a service, you can do that. Sometimes it's just looking at how can you add some type of add-on to a pet that's already coming to your facility. And we had talked about this, and Samantha's on, so she had mentioned it on one of our last calls about, if you just increase every dog that she does grooming, if you can increase every grooming dog that you see by a couple of dollars, multiply that. How much is that going to be? In most cases, it's a significant amount.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be your throwing everything out and starting over. It just has to be that you look at how much can we reasonably expect to increase revenue per pet, as well as, if in addition to raising prices.
Yeah, and I look at what services you might have extra capacity right now, whether that's staff capacity for bathers or trainers in classes. Looking at your occupancy and capacity numbers are important, and where you can easily just add more revenue without increasing expenses is like low hanging fruit. And that's what I would work on first, because you aren't going to have to add more labor to get there. And I know there's not a lot of excess capacity in most places right now, but looking at that, people say my facility's full. Well, is it full midweek or only on weekends? Where do you have capacity that you could potentially increase and put your growth? And then that's where you want to direct your marketing dollars. And so being strategic about how you market could also help you maybe even save some money.
Yeah, and then Kristen said, decreasing my discounts would really help me. Yes, absolutely. This, if you have not heard us talk about discounts, discounts is a huge factor in, particularly in the pet care industry, because we tend to be super nice people that want to discount a lot to help our clients, which is wonderful. But track those discounts, because Susan and I would say your overall discount should be less than 10% overall. And when you add up all the various different discounts you might offer. And if you just think of it in very simple terms, if you have, let's say you charge $100 for something and you offer a 10% discount, that's $10, right? So you're thinking that's not very much. But what if you give away like 100 of those things? That starts adding up. $10 100 times, that's $1,000. That starts to add up a lot. So you really want to look at that. And we have other, if you haven't been on our YouTube channel, go check our YouTube channel out, or subscribe would even be better. We have a lot of videos that we've done on revenue increases and ideas for generating more revenue. But one of the biggest things that we always talk about is discounts, because a lot of times you can put thousands of dollars, literally thousands of dollars, in your pocket just by cutting your revenue, cutting your discounts, and you haven't changed anything else. And it's a matter of just doing it. It's just a matter of saying, what's this discount? How is this discount helping me and my business? And if it's not, get rid of the discount. So that's a huge one. So that's a really good. Yeah. And Anna said the same thing. It's the same thing for us, reducing discounts in 2020, 2022. Definitely look at that. It's if you haven't done that yet, definitely look at it.
And I think the other thing right now I'd be putting in my 2022 plan is what can I do to build a team and retain my staff? Because that's something that will save you money if you have less turnover in staff. And so it's worth some time and brainstorming and being intentional, because what happens is you can have great ideas about things to do for team building and getting to know each other, but then the operational fires start and they go by the wayside. So if you build that into your plan now, it could help you retain staff, which I think will definitely improve your profitability as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge one. And I think right now we're seeing such a big flux in staffing issues in the pet care industry that the more you can focus on that, the better. And especially if you've got those team members who have stuck with you, those are the team members that really work with them to create a really strong culture that's going to attract other people like them, hopefully, which is the goal. But all of those things you want to write down, you want to just take a piece of paper. Susan and I typically start just with having a call together and we just make a list of all those goals. And we typically do this over a period. I guess it's been maybe a month now, Susan, that we've done it. So we'll have a meeting. Obviously, the two of us are partners. So you might not have a partner you're doing this with, but for us, we sit down and we just brainstorm where we want to be, what our goals are, what our percentage goals are in terms of profit, in terms of revenue increases. We look at what we want to do for our salaries for our employees. Do we want to change those? So we look at all those goals. And then we start to, as Susan said, we start to say, okay, now in order to reach those goals,
Yeah.
what do we need to do to sell our programs or our services? And so then we start playing around with, if we did X more of these, what would the number be? And so we're just it's really a numbers game at that point. And we don't do that on our budget until we do it on paper first. Like we do all the calculations initially and decide, okay, if we sell this many more of this and we add this service onto this program and we just create all these different ideas. And then we say, maybe if we launch that in January and we do it again in June, that'll be 2 times we're offering it. We just do all these guesses. That's all it is. We're just guessing, but we're trying to put valid numbers based on past experience on what we're doing. And then we find out like, this is how much more we could make if we did all these things. And then if we're reaching our goals, sometimes we have to adjust our goal because we're like, yeah, that's never going to happen. You have to be realistic in your goals. But sometimes we're like, oh, this might be even better than our goal. But we figure all that out. And then once we have that, we give it to our CFO who ends up putting that stuff in our budget. So then we can track it from a financial standpoint. But then on top of that, we put together our planning calendar for the entire year now, which means every month. So we have some standing meetings every Monday. Susan and I have a call on Monday morning with another one of our team members. And then right after that call, we have a team meeting, the huddle. And then every month we have a finance meeting with our CFO. It goes on the calendar now, like for the entire year. It's on our calendar. Doesn't mean we never change it. Like sometimes the date falls in a way that our bookkeeper hasn't gotten all of the entries in, or our CFO has not had time to review everything. And so we'll put it off, but it's on the calendar. And if we're changing it from a scheduled meeting to maybe a day or a week different. But we also put on the calendar.
We look at our numbers every month. We look at our financial,
look at our numbers,
our budget, and our KPIs. And so
that meeting's on our calendar. We have monthly meetings with our coaches on the calendar. We have standing meetings that we schedule, and there's no reason you can't do this. Just put it on the calendar now, especially the financial one, because if you don't put it on your calendar, I'm telling you, it just won't happen. And so we review our KPIs every month. Also, at the same time, we do our finance meeting. And then we put our vacations are on our calendar. Susan and I are actually trying something new where we're going to try to each take a week off from being digitally connected. So we might still do work, but we're going to try to not have to always be like checking our email every day and that kind of thing. So that's something new we're going to try this year. We just decided to try it. Susan was, I think initially we were like, let's take a week off where we aren't digitally connected. And then I was like, let's both do it.
Yeah,
For
we're gonna
alternate
alternate.
weeks. Like, so we don't know. I said, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're going to try it. But what that forces us to do is it forces us to train our team members better, because Susan and I each have team members that work under us. And in order for me to get away from digitally having to be in connected, my team members have to be able to work a little bit more independently. And they work really independently now, but it's just going to take it to the next level to where they can really cover for me if I'm not checking my email every week. And same thing for Susan. So we don't know how that's going to work, but it's something we decided we would try this year. And same thing with you guys, the business owner, you should be scheduling yourself. When are you going to be out of your office because you're taking vacation? When are you going to be out of office because you need to work on the business?
Right.
And we have found that most of the time that doesn't work well, to work on your business while you're in the office, unless you have really good boundaries. So that's another thing to start planning, and just make a goal. Maybe your goal is that you're going to be out of the office one day every week to do business stuff at Starbucks or at home or wherever. Or maybe your goal is to do that 2 days a week. We have some people who their goal is to not have to be there at all.
And I think that may be the question you start with. For you to really love having your business and being a part of it 1 year from today, what do you want to be different about it? And that needs to be part of your goal. And that's how Robin and I came up to this. I need to digitally unplug. That's one thing that I don't love about our business today is we don't digitally get away. Even when I'm down at the beach, I'm on email every day. I'm checking in. And so I told Robin, we preach this all the time, but we're not doing it. And that's just not authentic. And it's something that we both feel really strongly about. So for us to really love being owners of the Dog Gurus a year from now, that's something we need to change. So it's one of our goals in our strategic plan.
Yeah. And so figuring out what that goal is for you. But I would say for every business owner, your goal should be getting out of the office more, because it's if that's your goal and you're serious about reaching it, it will force you to train your staff. And let's face it, a lot of us are control freaks. It just happens in the pet industry. And so a lot of us tend to say, oh, there's no way I can leave. You can leave. I'm guaranteeing you, your staff will step up and you'll find out which staff members are really good and possibly in line for some type of a promotion or more responsibility or whatever. But if you just never go away, you're never going to find that out. But it will force you to help to start training your team, and you'll see where the deficiencies are. You'll see where, oh, I've never told them about XYZ because I always take care of that. And you'll start to see where those things are where they might need a little bit more training. And it's going to be messy and it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Basic thing you want to make sure of is the dogs are safe, the dogs are happy, the dogs are, being cared for. And that I can guarantee you, every pet care facility we work with, those things are really solidly in place. What is usually not as in place is, what do I say if somebody asks me this? Or like those things you can train your staff. So I would definitely make a goal to be out of the office more in 2022 than you were in 2020. All right, a couple of questions. So Marie said they did cut their discounts before summer and started adding early drop off or late pickup fees. So that's awesome.
That's a great one. You look at what you're doing for free and either make sure you're being compensated for it by increasing the price of the overall service or adding some of those extra add-on fees to your pricing structure. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and Anna said a little bit similar along those lines. We're examining services that seemed vital during COVID surges, like pet pickup delivery bus for people who didn't want to get out, but are now a huge drag on our times and their costs. So that's definitely a good one to look at. There's a lot of things that were added during COVID that maybe we've talked to some facilities that are like, we started this and it was awesome and we're going to keep doing that going forward. Some people that are doing pickup and delivery, pickup outside where the dog gets dropped off and the facility owner just comes out, or the staff comes out instead of the owner coming in the facility. So for a lot of people, they want to keep doing that. We've had other people who are like, oh, we're ready to get rid of that. So it depends, but decide what you want to keep and what you want to maybe get rid of. And then where can you justify the need to increase expenses? Cleaning protocols are probably the number one thing in that category. everybody changed their cleaning protocols during COVID. And I would venture to say most of you are still maybe not cleaning to the same extent you were in the middle of COVID and the summer last year, but probably you're doing it more than you did pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That costs more too. So that's why right there a reason to look at your pricing to make sure you are still charging the right amount for the amount of cleaning supplies and masks and anything else that you're doing, possibly COVID testing or whatever, that making sure that you might need to look at your prices for that as well. And then Samantha had said, as a grooming business that pays commission, I'm considering a price increase that includes a flat charge that goes directly to the salon. So raise $6 to $2 per groom goes to the salon. So that to help with labor costs. So I think that's a great thing to look at as well. And
Absolutely.
so all of those are really good ideas. So this is the time to get all that planning done. And like I said, for me and Susan, it's about a month-long process where we meet about every once every week, and then we sit on things and keep working and analyzing and brainstorming. And after about a month, we usually have a pretty solid plan that we can then give to our, what's he called? CFO to put in our budget. Now, I will say this is probably the latest that of where Susan and I usually are. Usually we start the planning earlier, but for the whatever reason we didn't. But the interesting thing is I feel like it's was faster this year too. So I
Right.
think it worked out because our goal is to have this done well before Thanksgiving. So if you're just now starting, it might be your goal should be to get it done before, if you can get it done before Thanksgiving, that would be awesome. But maybe it's like the beginning of December, just so it's done and you're not having to worry about it over the holidays. Because let's be honest, you're probably not going to work on it over the holidays. So that's Susan and I won't work on it over the holidays. That's why our goal is to get it done earlier. But definitely take the time to do it. It will help you to make decisions for your business as well as for your life and what you want out of your business, which is probably the biggest reason to do it. Because if you don't plan for those things, you're just going to get you basically it's like you're in that rapid and you're just going to go wherever the rapid takes you. Especially these days, you're just going to be sailing along wherever the rapid goes. You want to at least be able to say, this is the general direction I want to head. And as Susan said at the very beginning, I think the more you do this every year, the better the planning becomes, the better organized you get, and the more you're going to reach your goals.
Yeah.
What else? Any last minute thoughts on that, Susan?
Just try it and put a few things down and see how it goes. And keep it as a living document that you look at every month. That will help you stay on track or know if you need to make adjustments. But if you are really wanting to see some big growth and changes in your business, the only way you're going to get there is with a strategic plan.
Exactly. All right, a quick question. Hang on, let me push this up here.
Because, you know,
So Pat said we've always administered meds at no charge and would feed our food at no charge for boarding customers. How should we go about adding a charge for those services?
yeah, you would look at, how much does it cost you? So looking at the time that's spent. And so the first thing is you do want to know your cost. And then you're going to want to add a profit on top of that. So that's how you'll set your pricing. And then you just decide when it goes into effect and tell the clients, you may want to tell them when they make a reservation that now there is a fee for administering medication and food or however it's going to work. Tell them what it is. And you may want to do a reminder at drop off, but I wouldn't make a big deal about it. I would just
Yeah.
do it. Pick a
Yeah,
date.
we have some people that it's interesting because some facilities prefer to feed their own food, and then some prefer that the owner brings their food. So depending on which way you go, but either one of those things could be more expensive depending on what you want to drive the client to do. But you definitely want to go about with any kind of price increase, making sure you're pricing accurately. And then we usually say, let people know as you don't have to put a big thing coming soon, more pricing, or on your website. You don't have to do any of that. Just change the prices on your website. There does not need to be a notice that says these are all new prices. Like I wouldn't do that at all. We often find that people might give 3 to 4 weeks notice to their current clients, but I don't even think you have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's really up to each individual. But I feel like we in many cases, we over communicate price increases and under communicate everything else we do
Yeah.
in the pet care industry. Because no, there's so many other things you could be talking to your clients about, but price increases, we always want to tell them. And I don't think you really have to. It's really, and especially this time of year, these days, because it's so obvious that prices of everything's going up. So I think it's relatively easy. Now, you do have to tell people if they've already booked a service and that price is going to change. Most of the time, people just grandfather those pre existing reservations into the old price, but maybe not, depending on how early they made that reservation. But I just wouldn't make a big deal about it, Susan said. So hopefully that helps. One of the goal, I don't know if this whole thing's on here. It might have gotten cut off, but let me read his comment. One of the goals in 2022 is to be able to afford the Pet Guru College subscription. That's an awesome goal. Being able to give our employees access to as many resources as possible to help them grow and succeed in our company, which is awesome. So that I think is a great goal just for training and education just in general. So definitely put
And
that.
you know what the price of it is. And so now you can say, okay, how many more pets and in what service would pay for that subscription? And then how can we get them in? Or as Robin said, is there a way to add, it's $329. So what if we added $5 or even just $1 more? If you're seeing 329 dogs in a month, if you can get each one of them to spend $1 more while they're there, you've paid for your subscription. So that's a great one because it's what the cost is and you can come up with a plan of how to achieve it. So we love that.
Yeah, that's great. So Kathy said, I have my clients get pissy with price increases if we don't give advance notice. I think you're probably always going to have clients that are upset with price increases, whether you tell them in advance or not. I think you're probably, I would try not telling. Now, I'm not saying just one day you have this price and next day you're like, nope, sorry. You do want to let them know in some way, but I don't think you have to give them a month's notice. I think a week notice is plenty. And I wouldn't even be telling the whole client database. I would, like Susan said, I would be telling people as they call to make reservations. Oh, by the way. But my other point is that I would try changing how you tell them about it, and you're probably still going to have a few people that aren't happy about it. So I don't know that it's necessarily that you're giving them advance notice. They would probably be, if they're going to be pissy about it, they're probably going to be pissy whether you tell them or not, to be honest, in advance or not.
You
And
know,
I always said, actually, I had an accountant tell me a long time ago that if I raised my prices and nobody complained, I didn't raise them high enough. So it's actually a good thing that a few people don't like it. And you may even lose clients and when you raise prices, which again, if you're losing clients, but you're raising your prices, most likely you're not going to lose enough clients. Even if you lose clients, you're going to make more money. And probably those clients are not at the top of your list of ideal client anyway. That's how I always look at it. So hopefully that helps. All right. Anna said, we gave a 2-week notice for the last increase with Guru advice. It was the easiest increase with the least backlash. Oh, well, that's good. And it wasn't a small increase. We sent a letter by e-blast and posted the letter in our lobby. So that's awesome. And I think a lot of it is not so much the fact that you've increased your price. It's how do you communicate that increase? If you're just like, hey, everything's going up, I got to raise my prices too. That's not as good as if you can explain all the added value that client gets. So what you train your staff, you take serious education. You've bought stuff for smoke detectors or alarms or first aid training or all the stuff that you guys do to make your facility stand apart from other facilities. Maybe you have PAC certification, like all that stuff matters. And if you can explain, hey, to keep up with all of this amazing stuff that we do to make sure that you have the absolute best people taking care of your dogs, we need to increase rates or whatever. But explaining why I think does matter if people do ask about it.
and for a lot of you, you're increasing the rates to keep being able to hire people that do a great job caring for your pets. And no client should argue against that. If they do, I'm going to be like Robin and say, then they're not my target client if they don't care about the quality of people that I have caring for their pet.
Yeah, exactly.
So
All
we
right.
want you guys to go out, even if you just set one or two goals and think about how you're gonna, what the action steps are to meet them. Something for you, time away from the business that's gonna make you really love having your business next year, and just try it if you've never done it.